Everyone, welcome. Thanks for joining us today. First and foremost, before we get started, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we meet today. Today I'm on Kaurna land, and I pay my respects to the Kaurna people and also pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging, and I extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people with us today. As I just mentioned, my name is Aaron, for those of you who haven't met me. And today, like all of our other webinars, Mandy will be joining online to answer all your questions on the chat and share her wisdom and knowledge with some questions at the end of the presentation. I don't expect today's session to go for the full hour, but we've got some extra time after the slides to be able to take some questions and provide you with some answers. Today is essentially a practical walkthrough of the one-off state long service leave return and what you need to do to complete it. This is how we collect information about your workers' service in the community service sector pre-scheme, so pre-1 October 2025, and any of their long service leave entitlements that they accrued. So essentially, this is about us gathering all of the data about your workers and their entitlements pre-scheme, so we can add them to their portable leave accruals on the worker portals. Hopefully, by the end of this conversation, you should feel fairly clear about if this applies to you, what prep you need to do, and where to go to for help if you need it. Just a quick recap on some of the key dates. The scheme started on the 1st of October last year. So by now, everyone should have registered their organisations. The first quarterly reporting return, which covered the 1st of October to the 31st of December, has been complete, and we are now in the second reporting period. So during those early months, we focused on giving employers time enough to get familiar with the registration process and the employee or the worker registration process and the quarterly reporting. And what we were very conscious of was not to overload you with additional requests for information. We wanted you to focus on a huge change on the 1st of October, focus on what you needed to do with immediate effect, and then make sure that that was completed, then move on to what's next. And that's where we find ourselves today with the state long service leave return. It's time for employers to now provide that pre-scheme service information to us. So like I said before, we can add it to the workers' balances on the portal. The state long service leave return, as you can see on the slide, was generated on the employer portals on the 4th of February. It is currently available on your employer portal if you haven't completed it, and we hope that you would be able to provide that back to us by the 4th of March. So I guess essentially, what is the state long service leave return? The good thing is that we only need it once. You only need to complete it once for all of your registered workers. And essentially it captures the long service leave service and entitlements that workers built up before the portable scheme started. This includes service to the sector, long service leave accrued, how much long service leave they've taken, and any long service leave balances or employer liability as of the 30th of September 2025. The information that we are looking for sits under the Long Service Leave Act 1987 and not the portable scheme. So a really clear definition of differences there. The purpose again of this return is to bring that pre-scheme information into our systems. So each worker's service history includes their full service record. And once it's submitted, all future service is managed through the quarterly returns. There's a step-by-step guide on our website. I'll drop the link in the chat shortly if Mandy hasn't already done it. Oh, she's done it. Excellent. Far out. And that's a clear, I guess, guide as to what you need to do in this space. What I would do, and I'll talk about this at the end as well, is I would encourage everyone to visit our website. We've put a fairly big effort into making sure that all the resources are available on our website, and it essentially should be your first port of call for any questions you have. Acknowledging that people's scenarios are different and each people have different ways of understanding and learning. So visit the website first and then come back to us if you still can't find out what you need. We're having some issues with one person, I think, can't see the slides. I'm assuming everyone else can see the slides. No one else has complained? Yep, cool. All right, good. Who needs to complete it? So the state long service leave return needs to be completed by any employer who had eligible workers employed before the 1st of October. So it's important to note that if you had workers that were employed before the 1st of October and then their long service leave process transitioned over to the portable long service leave scheme, they're the workers that we're looking for. It applies to workers that are casual. So a lot of people have asked us about casual workers. Casual workers do accrue long service leave. There's some information on our website about that. It applies to workers that did not reach 7 years of service before the scheme started, but they continue to work with you and work towards that 7-year milestone. And it even applies if you only had a small number of eligible workers. The return is completed at the employer level, so the employers need to undertake this process, and it's not to be undertaken by the workers themselves. As I alluded to earlier, we're about the dates. The state long service leave return was generated on the 4th of February. You would have been notified by an email, so an email generated from the portal. So there would have been no, I guess, confusion in that space. If you haven't seen it or if you haven't been made aware, let us know. We've given everyone a month to complete it. There obviously will be organisations that will need the full 4 weeks to be able to complete it because of the number of employees they have, and there'll be some that will be able to do it fairly swiftly. So each scenario is going to be different in that space, but we've tried to give you as much time as needed. The sooner we have that information into the worker portals, the better for the worker to be able to understand what their balances are. For employers who have registered later, so not necessarily within that first period in October last year, the state long service leave return will be generated and completed as part of, I guess, your onboarding process. And there'll be some more information about that as well. As I said, this is a one-off task. It's to capture that data pre-scheme about your workers. And once it's submitted, you won't need to complete another state long service leave return. So I just wanted to tap into what information you'll need and what you'll need to provide for each eligible worker who was employed before the 1st of October. For every worker on the return, you'll need their start date with your organisation. So that's day one for any of your workers that turned up to your office or turned up in their cars or vans into your office to start work. It's important that we have that information so we know when their accruals or their long service leave accruals started. The next bit of information we'll need is the end date for this return. So workers who would have registered from October the 1st last year, the end date for state long service leave entitlements is the 30th of September 2025. Obviously, if you've registered later than that for whatever reason, that date might change, but we'll talk about that a little bit more if people have some questions. We'll also need their months of service, which is captured in months, and you've got up to 5 decimal points if you need. The system will round up if you go beyond that. but that's a really important thing to provide as well. So it's the total time the worker has worked for you in months. So I guess an example of that is if I started a new job on the 1st of November in 2017, my months of service through to the 30th of September last year would be 95 months. So essentially that's 7 years, 2017 to 2025, multiplied by 12, plus that 11 months on the side. So it's 95 months of service that would be captured for me if they were my dates. Next, we need how much long service leave they've accrued, the workers accrued. And this is the amount of long service leave accrued under the Long Service Leave Act, and it's recorded in weeks. I'll go into a little bit of information on a few slides coming up about how we convert hours and weeks, but essentially our legislation requires us to capture this accrual in weeks, and it's really important that we get that right. We have had a few questions in that space, so we've got some examples or calculations that should help you in that space. We also need how much long service leave that worker has already taken, and that needs to be taken or provided to us in weeks. Some questions that we've been asked in this space is if the worker has taken some leave after the 1st of October and has been paid through the scheme, because we wouldn't have understood how much service that worker has had, it would have been needed to be, I guess, claimed from the pre-scheme service. And if they have taken leave in that period of time and it has been paid out to the worker, that would be deducted from the long service leave taken, or that would be included, I should say, in the long service leave taken section. So we can talk a little bit about that if you've got any questions as well. The long service leave balance is simply that long service leave accrued minus the long service leave taken. And again, that's recorded in weeks as well. In some cases, you will also be asked to provide an employer liability amount, which I'll also explain shortly. I would expect that all this information should come from your existing employment and payroll records. If you're having trouble in that space, I would be asking some questions, and hopefully you've got all that captured anyways. The Long Service Leave under the State Act, so under the Long Service Leave Act 1987, is already accrued in weeks. So I don't think you're being asked to calculate anything new. I understand payroll systems might calculate it or capture it in hours, but again, there's a simple formula that we can share with you, or a calculation, I should say, that we can share that helps you calculate hours to weeks. Again, here we are. So converting hours into weeks. We're often asked, obviously, about this particular issue, which it seems is fairly common along lots of payroll systems. So I can tell you, you're not the only one that would be asking these questions. So again, some employers record long service leave in hours, and even though the legislation records leave in weeks, a lot of those payroll systems automatically convert weeks into hours. So for the state long service leave return, the leave, and I feel like I'm a broken record, but the leave must be reported in weeks. So this slide shows how weeks and hours align. So the key point is that a week of long service leave reflects the worker's ordinary weekly hours at the time the leave is taken. So that's a really important statement for you to take on board. So it's really reflective of that worker's ordinary weekly hours at the time the leave is taken. So some examples of that is Aaron. I've been working at my organisation for 10 years. I work an average 20 hours per week over the past 3 years. So I could have worked in year 8, I could have worked 40 hours a week. I'm going to get this wrong, this calculation, aren't I? In year 9, I could have worked 10 hours a week, and then whatever the difference is to make up my average hours per week. And then I want to claim 13 weeks of leave. So essentially, it's simply 13 weeks times that 20 hours per week, which is the average, which gives you 260 hours of leave. I'll give you another example in a minute, which is not so straightforward with a few decimal points, but the hours claimed in this space would be 260 hours of leave. So I guess that's how you can marry it up with your payroll systems. And the hours paid are always based on the worker's ordinary weekly hours. It's really important to know. The second example I'll talk about is where we dabble into a few decimal points. So again, this time around, Aaron has been working for an organisation for 11 years. If you work out the average weekly hours over the past 3 years, it averages out to 21.667 hours per week. Again, I want to have a nice holiday and take 13 weeks of leave. So it's essentially 13 weeks times that hours per week average to give you how many hours I've claimed or want to claim. So these are just, I guess, examples demonstrating how the conversation between hours and weeks is worked out. I'm sure if you work it out in reverse, it would be however many hours divided by the hours per week to give you how many weeks. So it's essentially worked out in reverse as well. Mandy, do we need to pause there just if we have any questions around that, or should we keep moving on and we'll take questions at the end?
Not really any questions, but just to clarify, those examples there were just a guide only and kind of some ideas about how you might convert the hours captured in your payroll system into the weeks of leave if that's the information that you have available. So every payroll system is different. They're all set up differently. So we can't confirm 100% that that will work for you, but it sort of gives you a starting position to be able to try and calculate that back to weeks if you haven't done that already.
Yeah, thanks, Mandy. And how good would life be if everyone used the same payroll system? But we know that that's not the case. So it's hard, I guess, from our perspective, to be able to work exactly out what you need for your payroll. But I guess, like Mandy said, these are just some examples of what could be useful for you. Just to move on to quickly to understanding what months of service means, and it refers really to the total time a worker has been employed by you. It needs to reflect continuous service under the Long Service Leave Act of 1987. And when you calculate months of service, you count from the start date that they started with your organisation right up to the 30th of September 2025. And importantly, you should deduct any full weeks of unpaid leave from that time. The figure is entered in months and can include up to 5 decimal places as well. So for example, so I'm giving you lots of examples today and I feel like I'm using myself as a guinea pig. If I started again with that same organisation on the 1st of November 2017 and worked through to the 30th of September, I would have 95 months of service. And the key point is that this is about time worked, not hours, not work patterns, or not contract types. So it's just really important about how much you've worked or how much the worker's worked. Again, if a worker was employed during that period, their service is counted unless there was any unpaid leave that needs to be deducted. For the state long service leave return, long service leave is recorded in weeks, and under the state system, a worker accrues 1.3 weeks of long service leave for each completed year of service. Only full years completed are counted when calculating accrued leave. Partial years don't add to the accrual. So if a worker has completed 7 full years, they will have 9.1 weeks of long service leave. Therefore, what you would record is the long service leave accrued in weeks, and this example would be, say, 9.1. and long service leave taken in weeks if the worker has already taken any leave. The long service leave balance, again, is simply the accrued amount minus the amount taken. You're just reporting it as it stood on the 30th of September. So the confusion I want to avoid is this return and quarterly returns. This return is obviously for pre-scheme service. Quarterly returns is for service accrued once they're registered under the portal scheme. Employer liability. This is so where a liability does apply, it is the amount that would have been payable to your worker for long service leave as of the 30th of September. It's calculated using the worker's ordinary weekly rate of pay at that date and multiplied by their long service leave balance in weeks. For example, if a worker had a balance of 7 years of service and an ordinary weekly rate of pay of $1,500, the employer liability would be $13,650. This figure reflects the employer's position at the scheme start date. So the state long service leave return is accessed through the employer portal. I'm going to make an assumption that you've all logged in and had a poke around, which is, I hope you have, and you've done your quarterly return or done other things. Essentially, you'll log on using your existing employer portal, log on details, and once you've logged in, the return itself, called State Long Service Leave Return under return type, will appear on your dashboard, as you can see in this example on your slide. The other way of accessing it is through the tab at the top, and you can drop that down and access the return that way as well. So there's two ways to complete this return. You can do it manually, so you can enter worker details directly into the portal itself once that page pops up, or you can use a download template as well. I guess it depends on how much time you need to spend on doing it. Some people find the downloadable template a lot easier to use because they've got a large number of workers. Some people don't necessarily need to. So it depends on what's best suited to you. Sometimes you want to do it faster and reduce errors, so that downloadable template might be easier. If you do see an error pop up on your form when you are completing it, it's probably likely that you have entered a worker listed, or you have a duplicate worker. So we've noticed that a few people have asked about these errors, and it's generally coming down to having a worker listed twice on the return. So it's a duplicate. So just go and look at that first, and hopefully that's the issue. If you've got any other issues that don't allow you to complete it or submit it because an error is popping up, just let us know. I know we've had a few questions about why we're doing this return in the middle of a different return cycle. So I said that this state long service leave return is different to the quarterly return that you would normally do. And we've slotted it in between your first quarterly return and the second one due in April. And essentially the reason for asking you to do the state long service leave return now instead of last year is, and we didn't really want to overload you with asking you to do all these new things at the same time and getting confused. So we wanted to avoid you guys having to do a lot in a short amount of time, because most people, like me in particular, takes time to be able to learn new things, understand why you're doing it and how you have to do it. So essentially we've slotted this in after a period of time that's allowed you to become familiar with the portal and with the scheme itself. So having said that, I know it's a lot to take in, and we've got a lot of support available for you. It's really important for you to know that we have as I said at the start of the webinar, a lot of resources available for you to get your way through things, to provide you with some guidance or some help. We have got, I think now 4 or 5 editions of toolkits on our website. I think 5, from memory, and each of those toolkits has a different information sheet for a different responsibility that you need or some help that you might need. So go take a look. If you can't see anything that you need to find, there is a search button on our website. You can search it, and sometimes it works for me. It pops up, and you can actually know where to go. So the other thing I think is really important is you can share your learnings with your colleagues. These webinars we record, and we place those recordings on our website as well, so you can watch them in your own time at your own pace. And you can listen to my voice on repeat if you really wanted to. You can go back over and listen to, I guess, some of those instructions as well. So each session is designed to help you understand what you need to do, and when you need to do it, and how the scheme works in practice. Our FAQs are immense on our website. I think that's a fair word for it. We have got a lot of FAQs. We continue to add new FAQs to our website based on questions that we hear or issues that we hear from our employers and our workers. And we are always looking at ways to improve what that experience is for our visitors on our website around those FAQs. If you do have a question and you can't find it on the website, absolutely give us a call, send us an email. I think it's really important that we do hear about your scenario or your issues that you're facing, and it's not captured on our website. We need to add it on there. So obviously these times we're actually in that period of learning, so we just need to make sure that we're getting the right information out to the right people. And last but not least, if you need that little bit more help, we've got a fantastic team of customer service operators and registration officers available for a phone call or working on responding to your emails. They can guide you through any part of the process or provide any answers to your questions. I know a lot of organisations have organisation-specific questions, which is absolutely fine because every organisation is different. Some questions are going to be easy for us to answer. Some are going to take a little bit more time. So I thank you for your patience while we get back to you in that space. I guess the thing I really want to make sure that you understand is that you're not on your own in this. It's taken us a while to, I guess, understand what's needed, understand what kind of information our employers and our workers need. So there are multiple ways to get that support you're looking for. So feel free to jump on our website if you've got any suggestions on how we improve that experience, or if you've got some questions that you can't find answers for, reach out. And lastly, I just want to thank you for today. I know Mandy's been busily answering some questions on the chat, so I appreciate you, Mandy. We'll get to be able to open it up to some questions so everyone can hear what they are. I just want to encourage you all to bookmark the website on your browsers. It's a quick and easy link you can capture through that QR code on your screen now. The email address is admin@saplsl-community.org.au, and our 2 phone numbers down the bottom there for you to contact. I feel like I plug this fairly regularly, but I'm going to plug it even harder today. Follow us on our socials. So it's really important, in particular for employers, to follow our LinkedIn page and our workers to follow our Facebook page. We post a lot of information, a lot of reminders, some news. Only this week we posted around a change that our board had made to exempt trainees from the levy, and we emailed that information out to all of our registered employers as well. But that's the type of information that we share on our pages. We share work milestones, don't we, Mandy, on our LinkedIn page, and we have lovely photos of awards when people deserve them, and we like to recognise them. But yeah, so if I leave you with that one last thing, it's follow us on those platforms. You'll stay up to date with those news, those reminders, and any details about upcoming, events, webinars, or sessions where we have that you might need some support. All right, I've had enough talking, Mandy. How are we going with the questions? Does anyone have any questions I should ask as well? If you feel like you want to put your hand up.
Hang on, one thing at a time.
Oh,
Mandy's going to do the questions first, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
So a couple of things, and I'm not sure if you touched on them because I was busily typing away, but if you have workers who terminated in the first quarter of the scheme, they won't appear on your state long service leave return because they've been terminated from your account. If those workers had an entitlement when they terminated from you, so they'd reached their 7 years, we still need to collect that state long service leave data from you. If you want to email it or send it through the direct messages, that would be super helpful. Otherwise, we will request it from you. We'll be able to identify which workers that is based on the information you provided upon registration. So we'll capture it that way. We've also had a few questions about payment amounts. So those are claims questions, but basically workers who are claiming service that was accrued before the scheme started is paid based on what you would pay them directly for long service leave under the Long Service Leave Act. Anything after the scheme starts is based on the average weekly rate of pay that we've got captured through our returns. When a worker takes long service leave and they're drawing on the service that they accrued before the scheme starts, if we've got all that liability information captured in our system, then we'll obviously reduce the liability that you're holding. The amount of leave that they're holding will be reduced as well, so that we continue to have all those records up to date. I got lost. If you've already paid workers for long service leave in the first quarter, please take that into account when providing the information about both the leave balances and the liabilities that you're holding. So for example, if the person had 13 weeks of leave at 30 September and you paid them for 3 weeks in November, when you report to us on the state return, please add in the 3 weeks taken in the taken column, and the balance is 10 weeks because you're taking into account the 3 weeks you paid them, and then tell us the remaining liability that you're holding, which is what it was at 30 September minus what you already paid them for those 3 weeks. So we do need the updated information if possible. If you haven't provided the updated information, then we'll need those agreement to extinguish liability forms to be able to manage what those remaining balances are. The other thing that I wanted to mention was that all the data that we're asking for, apart from the months of service accrued, which is kind of the same, is all based on the information that's in the Long Service Leave Act 1987. So SafeWork SA website has stacks of information about how to manage your liabilities under the Long Service Leave Act 1987 and how to calculate the long service leave that you should be accruing for your workers and how to calculate their rates of pay and all those kinds of things. So if you're not sure about how any of the long service leave works under that act, then absolutely have a look at that website. Hopefully that will be able to help you understand it a bit better. When we're asking for the months of service accrued, we're just asking for the service continuity that you would be capturing under the Long Service Leave Act 1987 and converting that to a monthly figure instead of a yearly figure. That's all. I think that's all of my questions at the moment.
That's okay. All good. I've just been having a look at the comments as they come in while you've been talking. And I think you've answered most of them, except there's a couple of new ones that are coming in. One about...
The reason why we're asking for this information is because under Schedule 3 of our Portable Long Service Leave Act, which is about managing the transition from no portable long service leave into having portable long service leave, what it says is that all of the service accrued with the employers upon commencement of the scheme gets transferred over into portable long service leave. So we need to know what the people had accrued and how much time they'd spent working in the sector to be able to put that over into their portable long service leave accounts, because the legislation says that's what needs to happen.
And I think it's really important at that point as well to note that our scheme here in South Australia has a lot of differences between other schemes across other jurisdictions. What other jurisdictions ask for or what their act says is completely different to what our act says and what our act requires us to do. So if other jurisdictions are asking you for information or saying that that's not how we do it, it is because the act is and the requirements here around our scheme are completely different and don't necessarily align with others. So yes, Judy, it does have a lot of differences. You're right. And what else have we got here, Mandy? All right, so can I just touch on Lisa's ask about communication through the portal? And I understand that there is a generated function through the portal that goes to the primary contact of the organisation, and I would assume any other contact points within that organisation as well that's listed on the portal. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Mandy? Yeah, so
yes.
If you're not receiving any communications from the portal, so through auto-generated emails, whatever, just have a check on your portal to make sure that you are one of the listed contact points. If you are, it may be because the email address is captured incorrectly, so it might not necessarily be working that space, or we need to have a look at what the system's doing. So I'm just having responding to Lisa's inquiry about not receiving anything. So just do that check, Lisa, around making sure that you are listed, making sure your details are correct, and then if there's any issues that space, just let us know. So I think you've asked.
The messaging on the portal, Lisa, is a separate process. So it's just like it's almost like a chat function. It's like a direct email thing. We're not going to send everything through both of those communication methods. We're going to send you everything by email primarily, but we do have that additional way of contacting each other. So you can contact us directly through the messaging in the portal if you want to, and we can reply to those messages. But by default, we send things by email.
Yeah, cool.
If the person leaves your organisation before reaching 7 years, no, you don't hold a liability anymore for the service accrued before the scheme starts. They retain the service that happened from 1st of October onwards because that's portable, but the service before that goes away. They're not entitled to that because they didn't reach an entitlement under the Long Service Leave Act 1987. At the moment, workers who have only been there short term will still be on your state long service leave return. All you need to put on there is their months of service that they've worked for you. And the reason why we still need to capture that, even though we have a start date and a finish date, is because of those unpaid periods of leave. So if someone has taken a couple of months of parental leave, that's not counted as towards service continuity. So we need to be able to capture exactly how long they would have that service continuity for. So that would be however many months deducted from their normal amount of time worked there. So that's why we can't just calculate it based on days. We don't know what's happened and whether or not their service continuity has been affected by unpaid leave.
Yeah, thanks, Mandy. That's a really good important point to make. I also can't recall if I talked a little bit about liability and when you do not list the liability. I don't think I did, to be honest. So maybe just to clarify, the only time that an employer would list monetary liability on the state long service leave return is if a worker has 7 or more years of service accrued. If they have less than that when you're doing the return, all you need to do is put 0 in that column. It doesn't mean that you don't have a liability that could eventually be taken. It just means at that time they haven't accrued a liability, so it's just a 0 at that time. And if the worker ever does get to that accrual amount or that entitlement, we'll come and talk to you about what that looks like then. So that's a really good point. You can't actually have formulas on your downloadable template either. It has to be worked out separately, and then you can add the figure. For some reason, our system doesn't recognize a formula in a cell. So you just have to make sure that if you see an error in that space, that's probably a reason why that there is an error. You just have to make sure that the figure entered is a legitimate figure, not via a function like formula. Libby just asked, are you answering that? Yeah, okay, cool. Mandy, so Libby just asked around who pays long service leave.
Yeah, so the workers should apply to portable long service leave for their leave. And then what we'll do is we'll pay them and we'll send you an invoice for the period of service that was used from pre-scheme. We're not just going to randomly send you an invoice. You'll know what's coming before it happens. There's a bit of a consultation period that happens, making sure we've got all that information. But basically, the idea is that everyone applies through the scheme. We pay everything and we manage the remaining balance of entitlements. Again, this is why the state long service leave return is so important, is because it gives us that visibility of how much leave everyone is holding and how much employer liabilities you're all holding as well, so that we know exactly how much that you can be billed for and exactly how much leave those workers are entitled to take.
Just going back to Lisa quickly, she's the only person in the portal and doesn't get information through the portal. So Lisa, can I just ask you to go back into your portal and have a look at the email address that's listed there for you to make sure it is correct? That's the only reason I can think that you wouldn't be getting them.
No, it's just because we haven't sent any direct messages.
Oh, but
yeah.
Okay, so I took it as if she hasn't been getting anything. So
if she's been sending them and not receiving anything back, that's a whole different thing. But we just don't send them on a routine basis. It's usually to do with any specific queries.
Okay, cool. All right. Yep. Thank you for that.
And if your workers started after the 1st of October, you don't need to include them on the state long service leave return because they don't have service before 1st of October. So yeah, if they started in January, you don't need to include them. The portals are hopefully March. What we want to make sure is that all of the online claims functionality is working 100% before we open it up. So we're doing quite a lot of testing, trying to get that ready as soon as possible. It's like so much more time consuming for us to use these paper forms as well. So we completely understand where you're coming from. But the last thing we want is a system that isn't working properly before we open it up to you all. So yes, it's coming. Yes, it's coming soon. It's not quite ready yet though. So just a little longer and we'll make sure, and then we'll be able to use it online.
Yeah, it's going to help us all, I think, when that eventuates. It's going to help not just the workers who are applying, but also our staff who are actioning and taking care of all of those requests as well. So we hear you, and we're doing it as quickly as we can. But like Mandy said, it needs to be 100% right before we actually make it live.
It's a complex procedure with pre-scheme service and multiple employers and all sorts of things, salary sacrifice and things like that. So we just have to make sure that every little component is being calculated properly. The last thing we want to do is pay the workers the wrong amount.
Yep. Just a question from Judy about the liability for staff who have more than 7 years. Do they need to update this regularly if their hours change?
No, because if you have a liability at 30 September, that's fixed. If you didn't have a liability at 30 September, then we're going to contact you when the worker claims to find out their weekly rate of pay. So you don't need to update it with us regularly. You need to make sure that you know what the figure is when it's time for them to make a claim.
Yep. Excellent. Thank you for that. Hopefully that answers your question, Judy. I'm filtering back. I can't see anything that you haven't answered. Right. Does anyone have any other questions that they would like to ask? I mean, be brave. You can ask them on the chat now instead of going through or on the call now instead of going through the chat. Okay, cool.
The rate of pay you use to calculate the liability is what the worker was paid at 30 September. So whatever their weekly rate of pay was at 30 September times the amount of leave available is how you calculate that liability. And that's calculated as under the Long Service Leave Act. So it's their average hours per week times their rate of pay at 30 September times the weeks of long service leave that were available to that worker at the time. So whole years of service times 1.3 to work out those weeks.
Excellent. And that question from Phoebe that's just popped up. do we base 365 days
You
per
can
year
base
to
it
work
on
out the months?
365 if you want to. We're close enough.
Yep. That's the perfect answer. Thank you. All right. Anyone brave for any questions? We haven't missed anything, I don't think. Oh, Natalia, perfect.
Hi.
Hello.
Just in regards to casuals service, because I've seen in the chat many people asking about, because they are casual employees, they usually, it's not like an unpaid leave. It's just like they do not work and are not registered as an unpaid leave. So definitely, if that would means like anything, from the start date until the 30th of September, it doesn't matter if there is they didn't work or not. That would be the service for them. Is it right? So we don't deduct any work, any week that they haven't worked.
So we're going back to the Long Service Leave Act for this, and there's sections in there about continuity of service, and that's what you need to refer to when you're working out those months. Okay, so it's what the Long Service Leave Act says. That information is available online. But yes, that is my understanding, is that for a casual worker, it is leave without pay that it's deducted only. But I could be wrong, so please go back and refer to that if you want to. We're experts in the Portable Long Service Leave Act, not the Long Service Leave Act. Pretty well versed on it, but absolutely not the experts. And if you do want some more advice on the Long Service Leave Act and casual workers, then Safe Work SA are the people you should contact.
Thanks, Maggie.
No problem.
Thanks, Natalia. All right. I feel like we're coming to the end because our questions are drying up. We'll give people an opportunity if they have any more questions to ask them. If not, while we're waiting for that, I'm going to repeat the fact that we've got, with regards to the portable long service leave scheme, we've got a ton of resources available. So look, I can't say this enough. Our website is chock-a-blocks full of resources and information. Take a look. Get familiar with, I guess, your scenario by going to the website and having a look at that information. If I'm not breaking the website, it's generally working. There is a ton of FAQs on there and toolkit information sheets, and we are regularly providing more information on there as we see fit and as feedback comes in. We've got some videos on there around how-to guides. We're looking at doing a video guide for the claims process. It's a little bit tricky right now because we have a manual process and we're going to be transitioning into the process through the portal. So just trying to work out what the time frame on that looks like. But encourage you all to spend a bit of time. I know you're very time poor, but spend a bit of time having a look through our website and getting familiar with some of that information. As Mandy alluded to, we are right now talking about the State Long Service Leave Act, and we're not experts in that field. The Safe Work SA team are really versed in that act. And if you've got any questions around how that functions or what you should be doing in that space, your first port of call should be Safe Work SA. Because we're not experts, it's hard for us to provide you with any guidance. And we would always recommend you going through to the Safe Work SA team to understand what your obligations are under that act, not the portable scheme and the portable act. Okay, so a video guide as to how to calculate long service leave liability for this return. So again, the liability for the state return, the state long service leave return, is clearly defined and shared through the Safe Work SA website. I would recommend you go have a look at it. It's something that all organisations should be doing anyways, for all their workers pre-scheme. I'm more than happy to provide some content and some resources when it comes to the portable long service leave scheme. When it comes to something that sits outside of our realm, I would suggest you go look at their website. I regularly talk to the team at SAPLSL SA, and they continually confirm that all of their information is up to date, and we're asking them to share information about the portal scheme as well. So we'll continue to do that as we move forward. How are we going, Mandy? Are we ready? Are we finished? We've done everything. We've answered all the questions. You feel
I think
comfortable?
so.
All right. If we haven't answered your question, or you feel like you're still a bit confused or unsure, feel free to reach out. Feel free to jump on the website and have a look. We are here to help you essentially at the end of the day around the portal scheme. So we're doing all we can to make sure that you know exactly what you need to do, when you need to do it, and how you need to do it. And in that, I will thank you very much for coming today, and appreciate all the time that you are spending on, I guess, learning what you need to do in this space. Just to let Lisa know, and Mandy just responded, the State Long Service Leave Return is due on the 4th of March. So you still got a couple of weeks up your sleeve. No need to panic. Make sure you get it right, and we'll leave it at that. Have a great rest of your Thursday and rest of your week. And I'll sign out with that and bid you farewell. Thank you, everyone.